Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Jack. Thanks for joining me for this video. We will be going over some key concepts and findings in the book Always Hungry by Dr. David Ludwig. We will cover how the findings of his research team heavily parallels the findings of the obesity code by Dr. David Fung, which I discussed in a past video. I highly suggest reading both books, but perhaps start with Always Hungry, and I'll explain why in the video. I think that this book covers some key topics that we have covered in this playlist on permanent weight loss and nutrition. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So, who is the author? Dr. David Ludwig is a MD, PhD. He is an endocrinologist and researcher at Boston's Children's Hospital. He is a professor of nutrition and pediatrics at Harvard Medical School and the School of Public Health. And he's overall just a pretty famous dude. He has been featured in numerous media outlets for his take on these matters. And he has another book titled Always Delicious, which is full of recipes. And by the way, both books will be linked in the description below if you want to read them for yourself, which I highly recommend. The basic premise is that due to chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, and stress, hormones, our fat cells, have become angry and they do not function appropriately due to our overconsumption of highly processed foods, which causes high levels of insulin, and we end up storing the calories as fat. And then it is not accessible due to this fat cell malfunction. So we need to reprogram our fat cells to release all of its calories. When you do this, your body gets access to the fuel within the fat cells. Therefore, metabolism increases and your hunger as well as your cravings decrease, and you begin to lose weight. He sets up this program that is designed to lower your body's internal set weight. And that is the internal thermostat we talked about before. So how do you do it? You get there by eating quality food, reducing stress, and steadily increasing your activity level. He does a fantastic job of explaining why the foods we eat do what they do to our bodies, and he supports it all with science, research, data, and real-world experiences, many of which I've noticed in helping my patients lose weight as well. What drew me into this book immediately is how he talks about how doctors come out of their medical training embarrassingly unequipped to talk about nutrition. I had a one-week course on nutrition in medical school, and then we took the exam. What's interesting is that about 1/3 of the class actually failed the exam, as the questions on the tests were way more complicated than what was taught in class. That should have told us something already as to how complicated the topic actually was and how much more research was needed well beyond what was actually being taught in the classroom. Medical schools seem to focus too much energy on surgery and drugs, even though lifestyle has been linked to many chronic illnesses. But I'm sort of getting off topic here. All this material will be covered for another video, so make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Much appreciated. We talked about this before in this playlist, how counting calories is just plain silly. This is because it has been shown in studies that calorie-dense foods such as dark chocolate, olive oil, and nuts actually seem to prevent obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. You see, fat cells are controlled ultimately by insulin. And again, this is the overarching theme throughout the videos I've done so far on this topic of obesity. He has the same saying as in the obesity code, and that saying is that overeating doesn't make us fat. The process of becoming fat makes us overeat. And this is due to the hormone imbalance that occurs from our food choices. Said another way, being hungry and eating too much is a result of an underlying problem within our bodies. The brain has a perception problem. It thinks it's starving even though it is not, and therefore it makes us hungry and slows our metabolism down to preserve itself. So what can you do? If you eat, you satisfy this hunger problem, but then you gain weight. If you reduce your calories even more, then you lose weight temporarily, but inevitably you will fall off the diet and gain even more weight because your metabolism decreased in the process. And this decrease in metabolism goes on indefinitely. In my last video, we talked about highly processed foods and how they affect our bodies. The issue is that they overstimulate fat cells and causes an overstorage of energy or calories within them. So while they consume and hoard all the energy, the rest of the body starves. So when we quote unquote diet and starve ourselves, the fat cells have an advantage during these times. Before they will release that energy and start to shrink, your body and mind must suffer first. What I like about this book is that he lays out a meal plan and educates on all these food groups and what they do within our bodies. It's basically a crash course on nutrition. His basic strategy is to, number one, turn off the starvation response by eating whenever you're hungry and until fully satisfied. Number two, lower the insulin levels, inflammation, and redirect the calories to the rest of the body and out of the fat cells. Number three, adjust your lifestyle with simple physical activities, sleep, and stress relief to improve metabolism and to create a permanent behavior change. The focus is on reducing carbohydrates, and it is a quick way to reduce insulin resistance and kickstart weight loss. It's because all carbohydrates break down into sugar. However, the rate that it breaks it down varies based on the type of carbohydrate that you eat, hence the glycemic index. And that is a system that ranks food on a scale of 1 to 100, telling you their effect on blood sugar levels. For example, highly processed starchy foods raise blood glucose tremendously. Things like white bread, rice, breakfast cereals, and the modern white potato gets absorbed into your body so quickly that their glycemic index are higher than even table sugar. That means that you can sit down and eat a loaf of white bread or just eat straight sugar. You will notice a drastic difference in taste, but once in your digestive system, your body will not know the difference. The focus is on proteins and healthy fats. The human body needs only a few ounces of protein on a daily basis for tissue repair and to run the reactions that occur in our body for things like metabolism. In regards to fats, it is healthy fats from things like olive oil, avocados, and nuts. They slow digestion and you feel satiated or full for a prolonged period of time, and significantly lowers the risk of heart disease. Your body needs a small amount of fat, more in the form of a balanced omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acid, as they are needed for cell membranes, that's the outer shell of the cell, and also for cell-to-cell communication. It is important for chronic inflammation as well. The one macronutrient we actually don't need are carbohydrates. The body can run on all the fuel needed just from protein and fat alone. It's important to keep in mind that we have been misinformed of how eating fat is bad for you and how that belief is what kickstarted the food industry down the road of even more highly processed foods. This is because when you remove the fat from food, it tastes terrible. So guess what makes it taste good again? Sugar. Lots and lots of sugar. Adding lots of sugar, whether it's real or fake sugar, makes food taste good again. It tastes too good as it actually affects the addiction chemicals within our brain by targeting our brain's reward system. So things like nuts, avocado, olive oil, and cheeses were kicked to the trash, and it was felt to be bad for you and cause heart disease. To most people, this made sense, right? If you don't want to get fat, then don't eat fat. However, your body is much more complex than that. During these 50-odd years of Americans eating less fat, our waistlines have exploded. And all of this just makes sense. If you eat nourishing food to lose weight, then you are less hungry. Therefore, you crave food less, your energy levels improve, and it acts as a mood stabilizer for those that get hangry. And who doesn't get hangry? This is in comparison to most calorie-restricted diets where you're fighting hunger the entire time. He discusses the gut biome as well. If you've watched my previous videos, you know that I'm a big believer in the importance of nourishing the good bacteria in our gut. Those with an unhealthy gut biome had more issues with chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, and therefore weight gain. Polyphenols are in colorful fruits, veggies, especially things like berries, and they can slow the growth of toxic microbes, allowing good bacteria to flourish within our gut. Curcumin is a polyphenol from turmeric that is a powerful anti-inflammatory. We've talked about that quite a bit in past videos. And there's an entire list of foods that you can eat to nourish the good bacteria in your gut. So what about sugars? Specifically fructose. The problem with fructose is that it is absorbed so unbelievably fast into our body. We won't dive deeply here into it as I covered it in my last video. However, you should know something about artificial sweeteners. They cause people to no longer find natural sweet things palatable, like fruit and vegetables. It can also cause insulin secretion, which again drives calories into fat cells and stimulating hunger. So minimize anything sweet, whether it is real or fake sugar. Now tell me if this sounds like you. You go to an all-you-can-eat buffet, and in order to get your money's worth, you gorge yourself until you feel like you need a wheelbarrow to wheel you out. We've all been there. The Japanese actually have a saying of Hara Hachi Bu, which translates to stomach 80% full. Much like certain lithium-ion batteries, you only want to go about 80% charge or fullness. For those of you that follow the channel, you know that I'm a big fan of Tesla, so I try to throw that into the videos where I can. By the way, congrats to all the shareholders with the recent run-up in the stock. But getting back to on track of what we were talking about. What you want to do is follow a meal plan and eat when hungry and stop when you're satisfied but not uncomfortably full. Keep in mind that the whole just move to lose weight does not work, because look at what happens. What happens when you suddenly increase your exercise? Did you eat a lot more afterward and become more hungry? More physical activity makes us hungrier, so we eat more. It makes it hard to lose weight by doing this only. On top of that, you would never be able to burn that many calories just by working out if you do not adjust the type of foods that you consume. Let's talk about the whole I'm overweight because of my genetics. I get told this all the time by my patients, where they say my parents and my siblings are overweight. It's obviously genetic. Genetic disorders do exist for weight gain, but they are few and far between. What's going on is likely because everyone grew up eating the same thing within one family. Ever since the end of World War II in 1945, there has been an abundance of food in developed countries. However, the obesity epidemic did not begin until the late 1970s for the United States, 1980s for Europe, and 1990s for Japan. Our genetic makeup has not changed that much in those years, but the environment and what we put in our bodies has. The take-home message is this. We have spent so many decades staying away from fatty foods, having our willpower repeatedly tested by starving ourselves, sweating it out by exercising and counting every calorie. Where has it gotten us? The developed world's obesity issues continue to be a major public health issue, and its ripple effects throughout society are enormous. 50 years ago, 13% of the US population were considered obese. Now, 66% are considered obese, morbidly obese, or super morbidly obese. Our military has loosened the weight restrictions to enlist. A 2014 Pentagon study found that 2/3 of Americans would not qualify to enlist in the armed forces as a result of our health problems, our obesity, and failure to complete a high school education. So the obesity epidemic has even become a national security issue. So that's a quick review on the highlights that I found in the book Always Hungry. I think it's the perfect book to start your education on all the topics discussed here. I like the other book, The Obesity Code, too, and it's full of fantastic data, and more so than Always Hungry, but it can be a bit too much to go through at times. I think that Always Hungry is a bit easier to read through, and I like that it has a step-by-step process walking you through how to begin your new lifestyle, leading you to permanent weight loss and an ideal body weight. Of course, I suggest getting both books as a deeper understanding of what is taking place in your body based on the type of food you eat will hopefully change the way that you view what you put inside your body. The entire goal is to nourish your body and stop poisoning it with all the highly processed foods, refined carbohydrates, sweets, and to eat only when you're hungry. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, be sure to hit that like button and share with others. Till next time, take care, be nice, bye-bye, Pura Vida.